Hey Miranda, how you doing? Okay, apologize this was late. Thank you for any all feedback. Oh, of course. All right, let's go ahead and jump over. I've got your composition open in a new window, and now all I have to do is find it. There it is. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to go through your presentation, okay, and then I'm going to compare and contrast that to the requirements and the instructions for the assignment. Then I'm going to show you some areas in the classroom to really concentrate on that you can use for resources to help compile your poster and give you some additional ideas as we move forward. So the first thing I see your submission here, and you've got a couple of things. You've got the timeline the name, and then the timeline information, and then we go straight to sketches. So don't forget, we need the bio paragraph information. So you got to get that in place. You need the bio paragraph information. Well, the things you need for the poster are this, and let me show you where this is found. This is over in this. Right here. I'm in week 5, final project part 1, Nobel Prize poster research and thumbnails, first iteration. That's the page I'm on, but I want to draw your attention down as I scroll down to the page. I want to come down here to week 5, milestones. All right, week 5, parts 1 and 2. That's what's due this week, right? So researcher, laureate, provide their name. We got that. Biography paragraphs, that's missing. Photo, we don't have the photo of the laureate. And then the dates and events of your timeline, we have that. And then we have your several sketches, which I'll talk about in 1 second. One thing I do want to mention about the dates and events is that you've got, other than born, you've only got 5 events. That might not be enough for a compelling presentation. And please feel free to go ahead and take a look at these examples in the class. I'm going to show you some more examples as well. But as you can see, these examples all have, that's a lot of timeline information. There's definitely more than 5 entries. Here's timeline for this. It looks like there's about 12 entries there, maybe even more. So I think 5 is just, here's a bunch here. So I think 5 entries is a little light. I look at this. This has probably 20 entries, right? So yeah, 5 entries is a little light. So I definitely would add more relevant information to your timeline. Okay, so we need that. We need more information for the timeline. We need the bio paragraphs. Okay, now the front of the poster in your sketches, let's go through your sketches. Okay, so if we take a look at the project instructions, so we have your mission. Okay, I want to just address this. So this is the first one. So announce who the person is through some typographic design of their name. Okay, so it's saying that you can use use typographic treatment to kind of create meaning here. All right. Now, I also want you to note that on the front of the poster, you have to include a tagline, a subhead, or a tagline. Okay. And I notice in some of your examples, you've got illustrations and/or images on the front cover. We bring you down here, a photograph image may only be used with the Nobel laureate, and his or her picture must appear on the back of the poster. So the only photographic imagery allowed is the bio picture. Okay, so things like this in your sketches, these little bookshelves and all that, I would recommend you stay away from that. And the reason being is that theoretically it says no images on the front, right? It doesn't really say no illustrations, but I don't think it's a good practice. I think it would be the best practice at this point to create all of your meaning typographically. That's what this is all about, after all. This assignment's all about creating meaning, creating these basically creating visual correspondence via typography. Right now, I'll get into that in a little bit when I show you some examples. But let's go ahead and take a look at what you have. So in this one, this is the simple design. So you've got her name and your tagline, right? And then we come over here. So basically in this simple design, I don't see any meaning being created. Okay, so in other words, you're not taking something and using it to establish your conceptual development based on something that's already there. Do you see what I'm saying? This will make more sense in a second when I show you some examples. Over here, you've got the bookshelf. That's good, right? But you're creating meaning here using illustration and not typography. So what I'd like you to do is create some sort of connection between books and bookshelves, or books and Malala, okay, typographically, and then take that concept and bring it through to the back. And you've done that right. I mean, you've got the bookshelf acting as the timeline, but the only thing here, the problem is that you're dependent on illustration to create meaning, and I want you to create meaning typographically, okay? The third one, again, you're creating meaning by the Nobel Prize. All right. Is there any way that you can depict books or bookshelves typographically through her name? Is there any way you can include the Nobel poster in her name? I mean, this would work if you took Yosasi and her last name has an I in it, right? So could you take the Nobel Prize, the circular Nobel Prize, and use it as the tittle or the dot over the I? That would make sense. That theoretically, that would be typographic solution, not an illustrative solution. Pulling it away from the type and presenting it separately implies an illustrative solution, right? We don't want that. We want a typographic solution. So we would think about that and adapt the relationship therein. Okay, and then the fourth one seems, again, you've got these pencils and papers creating meaning, which you use to the back. Now, this is going to make a lot more sense when I show you these examples. But before I show you the examples, I want to show you a couple of areas in the classroom that I really, really want you to pay attention to as we move through the project. And the first one is this instructions page. And again, back to the first iteration page. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. I want to be on the presentation page, which is right here. This is the presentation for week 5, sign symbols and semiotics. It's a great presentation. Read through it at least twice. It's a really good stuff, but I want to bring your attention to this area right down here. This is really important stuff right here. These are techniques that we can use to create this kind of visual correspondence. And I use visual correspondence as an all-encompassing term to include all of these techniques. Okay, so what you want to do is go through this presentation, take a look at this, and then make sure you click the I button so you can find out what example is representing what technique. Really get these under your belt. Study them and understand them. I'm not saying memorize them. I'm just saying study them, understand what's happening here. Okay, and as I said, I use the term visual correspondence to refer to all of these, kind of an all-encompassing term. So go through these presentations and really take a look at how the meaning is being created through typography and not illustration, right? So this example right here, if this were our cover, right, Morning Star. If this were just a regular O and then there was a little illustration of sunrise over here, it wouldn't count because you're not creating meaning typographically, you're creating meaning illustratively, right? So by just simply taking that O and using visual substitution to change the O out for something that resembles a sunrise, now you've created meaning typographically. I hope this makes sense. This is a critical juncture in this class. Critical. Because understanding this will make you a better designer. I promise you, I'm telling the truth. It's all about, we all see those designs where we go, oh man, that is really clever. And if you notice, a lot of it has to do with this visual correspondence we're speaking of. All right, the next area in the classroom I want to draw your attention to is the announcements area. And we're going to go through the announcements. I want to go through some examples in the announcement. And then we're going to go through some examples so I can really, really illustrate the points I'm making using examples. Okay, so welcome to week 5. This is the visual correspondence that I was talking about. So these are some really fantastic examples of how to create meaning typographically. Okay, good stuff, right? We'll get to the bottom of this. Really study these. Really, really study these and understand how they're creating meaning and what the meaning is and how it is presented. Let's jump down to the bottom of this announcement. Here we have the examples. Now, everything I've just said in the last 9 minutes, oh sorry, I'm taking a long time, is going to be rolled up and really demonstrated in these examples. So the first example, we've got this little illustration. Yes, that's an illustration, but this is a typographic solution because the illustration is using visual substitution to replace the O and Tony with this illustration. Therefore, it becomes a typographic solution and not an illustration solution. All right, so as we can see, we've created meaning here, right? But to take this, and then it has everything we need, the name and the subhead, right? But we take this meaning and we use continuation through to the back of the poster. We take elements out of that little illustration and we create the timeline out of it. Now everything's all tied together, makes perfect sense, right? Let's go to the second. This one is a Malala, so this you can relate to this one. But this one's really interesting because this typographic solution is created simply by using a little pattern in the M for Malala. So the viewer looks at it and says, okay, there's a pattern there, but we haven't really created much meaning yet, right? Watch. We go to the back of the poster, and the viewer says, okay, wait a second. That pattern is being repeated. So it must be of some sort of significance. Then we look at the image and we see, wow, that pattern is lifted right from the outfit she's wearing, which is indicative of traditional Pakistani female dress. So this is heavy, heavy meaning, message making based on what? What's already there, the image, right? So this is a wonderful example of creating meaning based on typography. The third one might be my favorite. This is a fantastic example of visual substitution where the designer has taken the E and replaced it with an equality sign, or an equal sign, which does represent the E, okay? By visual substitution, we can clearly see that that's an E. It doesn't impede readability or legibility, clearly viewable as Martin Luther King. The E reinforces his commitment to equality, right? So this is just fantastic work. Then we take this concept, and this designer has pushed it even further, excuse me, by continuation, using the equal sign on the back of the poster to create the timeline. Okay, and then this last example replaces the tittle over the I. The tittle is the dot over the I with this large red circle. And then also creates the prescription sign from the R. Okay, so we've got meaning here. The meaning is reinforced when we go to back of the poster, realize that red dot is there indicating the points of the timeline, which indicate red, which indicate blood, which has to do with malaria, and also has to do with these little stopping points of the mosquito, as that is how malaria is transmitted, right? So these are some really great examples. Now, after 12 minutes, I hope I'm making sense here. But what I would like you to do is just really think about what I've said in the last 12 minutes. Apply all of this and make sure that you cover all of the requirements for your final submission for this assignment. Okay, mouthful, 13 minutes, over 12 minutes. You know I didn't want to do that, but I want to be as thorough as possible here because just so you completely understand. So at this point, I would say the main thing right now is to get with me quickly if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, specifically questions, so I can address those quickly so we can concentrate on moving forward with the project. Okay, thank you very much for your submission. Miranda, where am I? Okay, yep, thanks, Miranda. Thank you very much for your submission. And again, very important to get with me with any questions, okay? Thank you.